Greetings, friends. Sam Mirejovsky here, your host of the What's Right show. Delighted to have you with us, as always. Programming reminder. Hey, I got to get this out because I'm talking to Alan Stock this morning, and he was touting the time change. I'll explain again a little bit about what we're doing here on the program. Those of you who are longtime listeners, I'm not going anywhere. It's getting better. Here's the high level. We are on the 16th, which is 2 weeks from yesterday. We are moving to 6 p.m. Okay, we're doing 6 p.m. Now, what's going to happen is the show is going to be produced as a podcast. I love radio. I have been a lifelong fan of radio. It's just, the future is here. All right. People want to listen to the show on their own time and listen to it on demand. That's how most people are listening to the What's Right show. So no knock on the radio. It will be on the radio the same day that it deploys by podcast. But if you are a podcast savvy person, if you are getting the podcast on Odyssey or wherever you get your podcast, then you will have the show first thing in the morning, because we'll get it out first thing in the morning and it's ready to go. So I'll start my day with the show, get it out there super early, so you have it on the way to work. You can listen to it at your leisure. And there it is. And that doesn't cost anything. It's free. It's a public service. I do this for you. All right. So that all starts on the 16th. It's going to be, a radio hour is about 40 minutes. So it's a shorter podcast to listen to. We'll pack everything into it, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And the objective here is to grow a large national show right here from Las Vegas. And I'm excited about that. And I hope you are too. So I'm just giving you that word. If you don't currently get the podcast, get it today. Get it now. Find it on whatever app you use. What's Right show. You're going to see this face, right? Familiar to you, perhaps, either from this program or from the billboards around town. So you know what I look like. Find me, click to subscribe, make sure you get the updates, and then nothing will change for you whatsoever. Okay? You've got the podcast. It's on your phone. It's on your computer. And there it is. All right. Sam at what'srightshow.com. Email me too if you got any questions about this. I will forward those emails to producer Robbie, who will take you through the steps of what you need to do. All right. We are here for you. Customer service, What's Right show. We go the extra mile. Sam at what'srightshow.com. Okay. At What's Right Sam on X. I was on Lindell TV today. 6 a.m. I had to wake up and get ready at the crack of dawn, Robbie. So if I'm a little delirious today, don't get mad. It was about an hour earlier than I normally get up. So just letting you know. All right, we got top 5 there. Today we're going to have some fun. Number 5, Hollywood director and icon Christopher Nolan wants to know where all the Hollywood jobs are. Where did they all go? What happened to Hollywood? You want to clue them in? When's the last Hollywood movie that you went to see in a movie theater? I was thinking about this because I will go see Melania, of course, which is still doing very well. I will go see Melania. But I think, Robbie, the last movie I went to see in the movie theater, Top Gun, the newest one. That made me feel good about my country. It was patriotic. It was fun. There was no, bullcrap politics in it. I could go with the kids. We all went to see it, and then we drove home really fast, inspired by what Tom Cruise was doing. Okay, so yeah, tell them. Oh, what's going on with Hollywood? Well, first of all, AI is going to cut into jobs in Hollywood big time. And I had a conversation about that. I'm going to maybe address that here as we get the show underway, because that's a whole separate pipe problem. But the other thing is just people, Hollywood keeps producing political crap that nobody wants to watch. You have a demand problem, Hollywood. We don't demand what you're giving us. Look at the insipid awards, the Grammys on Sunday night. Who wants to listen to this nonsense? Not me and not you. Tired of it. Insufferable a-holes. Okay. What happened to Hollywood? Hilarious, but absolutely in the top 5. Big story, people talking about it. Go figure. What else is going on? Pew Research found that migrant encounters at the U.S.-Mexico border are at their lowest level in more than 50. Pew Research found that migrant encounters at the U.S.-Mexico border are at their lowest levels in more than 50 years. That's 50. Can you believe this? 2022, by the way, and I don't even think these numbers, who knew, right? Biden just opened the door. So you had these are guesstimates as who was coming over. 2022, 2.2 million. 23, 2 million and some change. 2024, 1.5 million. And in 2025, that's the first of not full year that Trump was in office, 237,000. Staggering, right? Now, I'm just telling you this. It's all by design, right? And these are just encounters. So obviously there's presumably some people that even now are able to trickle into the country, although the border is very secure compared to how it was. And in 2022, for example, when they have 2.2 encounters, there could be twice as many or 3 times as many people who actually went to cross. And those are just the people that were encountered, were either apprehended or got away, but there's a record of it. All right, number 3, top 5 things going on today. The left is going crazy over this, and boy, have they got it wrong. Alex Preddy, remember him? He is the nurse. He's the all-around good guy that was murdered by ICE in cold blood in Minnesota. And he's the guy that, of course, in the video comes out of him a week or so prior being an absolute deranged lunatic and kicking and spitting at ICE agents, breaking their car, etc. His death certificate came out, and it's got homicide listed. And people are saying now the ICE agents should be arrested. They don't understand what justified homicide is. Somebody sneaks into your house, okay, and has a gun and is in your house in the middle of trying to force himself on your wife, and you shoot him dead. It's going to be ruled a homicide. But it doesn't mean you're going to do a lick of jail time. Maybe in California you will, but not here in Nevada. You're not going to do a lick of jail time is my point, because it's going to be ruled justified, but still a homicide, right? It's not a natural death. Number 2, guess what has happened to Pfizer stock? Boy, this just tickles my pickle. Pfizer is down. The stock is down over 40%, somewhere between 40 and 50% from its original 2021 peak. You wonder why this is happening? Well, Pfizer has acknowledged a significant drop in COVID-related revenue, which fell from over $56 billion in 2022 to roughly $5 billion recently. $56 billion to $5 billion. Oh, well, listen, Operation Warp Speed, I mean, Trump gave us this. I was not a fan at the time of this because but that was before Biden put in the mandate for the vax. And that was, and again, this is a story that ought to be talked about at length. You look at all of these multimillionaire people in Congress, and you look at, Biden's family fortunes and everything going up. When they mandated the vax, look at how much money just one company made. you can see why Washington is so corrupt. Now, number one, this may seem like a trivial story, but I'm bringing this up because it's important to me. And guess whose show this is? It's my show, so I get to do this. The Tongva tribe. They're an Indian tribe in California. And they have come out swinging for Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish is the idiot singer. I played the clip yesterday here on the program where she said that no one is illegal on stolen land. How can you be illegal on land that was stolen by evil white people? Well, the Tongva tribe has come out claiming that Eilish's $3 million home, in fact, sits on their ancestral land. And they're demanding it back. Eilish has not contacted our tribe directly regarding her property. We do value the instance when public figures provide visibility to the true history of this country. This is classic. The reason this is the top story is, of course, the left loves to do this. They say, let's open the borders. You know, we shouldn't have borders. Let everybody in the country. But then they build walls around their palatial compounds, put up gates, security cameras, hide by. You think they're taking in any migrants? You think that George Clooney and Amal are inviting illegal immigrants into their home to sleep in the spare bedroom? Hell no. And the same is true with Billie Eilish with their stolen land. What did I call it? I told you it was Chinese, a propaganda tool. It was made famous under Mao and used by Maoists and Stalinists everywhere, right? Tifa. Yeah, that's the term. I told you about this. And you know, Billie Eilish, the average idiot from Hollywood, uses the slogan, doesn't think, and now, I mean, I could make an argument as an attorney that this could be perceived as an offer to settle with the Tongva tribe, an acknowledgement of their rightful claims, and maybe she needs to give her house up. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, good to be with you. I'll be right back. Hang tight. More of the What's Right show up next.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
I always say this, right? I always say that the leftist, you know, mind-numbed robots, as Rush would call them, these leftists, they don't understand what they're even saying. You take Billie Eilish, right? Take this, you know, you're on stolen land. And then along come the Indians that once upon a time had Malibu. And are like, excuse me, that's our house. And now it's a conundrum. This happens at scale with all these idiotic things they do. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. A word about personal injury. You know how much I get a lot of hate mail. Yeah. By the way, you can find me, sam@whatsrightshow.com. sam@whatsrightshow.com. You can email me, tell me how much you hate me about this. Everybody hates PI lawyers, right? Greedy personal injury lawyers out there getting these big awards, big settlements. We talked about this case yesterday, and I got the facts mixed up. Two different stories had it two different ways, but I mentioned this young woman who, Fox Varian is her name. I don't know if that's her first, like her given name. I don't know what the story is there, but this young woman, you know, got railroaded by a psychologist and a doctor, and fast-tracked into what they call gender-affirming care, right? So they made this young woman a boy at a very young age, as a teen. And she'll never be the same. And I'm telling you, I'm just saying this. the total award all in with past medicals and campaign suffering and futures was $2 million. Do you think that's enough? And I actually want to hear from you, because I know what our kind of my conservative position is generally. By the way, I love that I'm a conservative trial lawyer. I love that. Everybody around me, by the way, they're all huge Democrats, huge libs. So when I go to these conferences, just as an aside, I am like the black sheep, okay? And everybody looks at me and then starts moving out of the way. Toxic. But that's okay. I love it. So I understand the conservative position is to be completely against, these types of lawsuits and to be against tort, lawyers and want tort reform and all that. But I mean, you've got to admit on some level that it's the hospital, okay? The psychologist, right? Everybody that pushed this poor young girl who was vulnerable, who was going through emotional things, that pushed her into the surgery that they profited off of. They made tens of thousands of dollars butchering a child. Do you agree? I mean, shouldn't these people be ruined financially? Would you want, your identity to be altered as a child for the rest of your life in exchange for only $2 million? I don't. I'm pointing this out. It's an interesting thought exercise, particularly for those of us who, those of you out there who are tort reform minded. And so I mentioned this actually this morning talking to Alan. I said, everybody hates PI lawyers until something awful happens to their family. When you have something terrible happen to your family, all of a sudden you go, okay, Sam, now I need you. Because hear me out. My situation, the wrong that happened to me is legitimate. And I'll tell you, I think that these kids that have gone through these procedures, that have been fast-tracked, and Matt Walsh, one of the early people who was drawing attention to this, it was all for profit. It was all for profit. That's what it was. The obscene thing is they held seminars at a place, remember, it was Vanderbilt Medical Center. This was a pediatric unit. They were holding seminars, and they were delightfully reporting how they were making all this money for that procedure or this procedure, referring to them sort of in how do you say this, disassociated terms of top and bottom. So removing, teenage boys, little boys' penises. I'm just going to be medical about this, right? Creating neo-vaginas. Removing young girls' breasts. This is barbaric. I happen to think, and maybe again, you tell me, email me, and you can yell at me, but I maybe it's because I'm a civil lawyer, I'm a personal injury lawyer, but I want to sue these people into financial ruin, and there's two reasons for it. Number one, we as conservatives believe in accountability and taking responsibility for your actions and holding people accountable in court and making them right a wrong, even though it can't really be righted, but money's money, is important. And it's it's just a fundamental principle of ours. Okay. So justice, righting a wrong. The other thing is it has a prophylactic effect. There'll be another craze. I mean, the leftists, they'll come up with another thing. They'll come up with something new. And you want every future person to go, well, remember that last craze? Remember how we were, starting in 2010 or so, we started doing the gender transitioning, and it resulted in, remember that hospital and that hospital, the other hospital, all went out of business. Those pediatric centers were shut down. Remember when we did that? Yeah, let's maybe rethink this, or let's take it a little slower. So it has a positive effect, is my point. All right, I get bottom of the hour. I know, I just wanted to come back to this because I had a couple people respond to me after yesterday with some hate. and conservatives, right? And I responded to you, you know who you are. But in my book, these people need to be held to account. And I'll be honest, financially ruining them is going easy. People who butcher kids, in Samuelistan, I would I would hang them right there, just public hangings. No problem. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. More of the What's Right show after this. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Yes, friends, this hour of the program brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law, the only law firm to trust for your injury case. Don't go at it alone. Don't get screwed. Even if it's a straightforward case, talking to your own insurance company, it's good to get some legal advice now. 800-304-2000, 800-304-2000. Offices in Nevada and California. No recovery, no fee, doesn't cost you any money up front, and guarantees that you have someone in your corner fighting for you. It's important. Trust me. Now, I was thinking about this. Well, I was thinking about obviously the detransitioner lawsuits, and there's a number of them now going through the courts. The successful verdict last week, $2 million for a young woman who was butchered by the, we'll call it the transitioning complex, medical facilities, drug companies, and the like. It was transfer money. I mean, that's what it was. But think about, I mentioned in the top 5 stories, just the immense profit that COVID brought for companies like Pfizer. And they had a vaccine that at the very least, didn't do much to prevent COVID, and at the worst, and created some damage. And it just reminded me that the left loves to create financial incentives for bad things. Now, it's certainly true in the transitioning deal, right? Because these medical centers that did this made millions and millions of dollars, and they held seminars on how to do it, and it was all about the money. All right, but it also includes illegal immigration. I mean, I mentioned yesterday that a bill to defund to some extent freebies for refugees, illegal immigrants in large part, from getting certain benefits, died in the Senate because Democrats, joined by 20 Republicans, said, no, we're not going to do this, because everybody, listen, here's a fact. Everybody is getting fat off of it. Everybody is siphoning money, but the incentives, it's a bad thing. Illegal immigration is a bad thing for the country, for those of us who are taxpayers, for people who want safety in their communities. Objectively, illegal immigration is bad. But what our government has done, led by leftists and complicit Republicans, is make it financially viable and actually beneficial and rewarding, not just for illegals to come themselves and immediately get checks, $20,000, $30,000. This is wild stuff. Get free health care, free housing in many cases, but also for the people that are serving them, be it, various NGOs or the like. And it's true for homelessness too, right? Homelessness it constantly gets money thrown at it, only for the problem to get worse. And the purpose behind it isn't to actually fix homelessness. The purpose is to turn it into a cash cow. So this, you could even say the legalizing theft below $1,000 is problematic, right? So I'm just letting you know, these are the kind of things that the left does, and it creates a big problem. So I'm just, Yeah, well, you want to incentivize productivity. You want to incentivize good things. And notice, right, the left never wants to lower taxes. Lowering taxes actually would be an incentive for people to be more productive and make more money on their own, right? That would be a good thing. But how we treat incentives is the biggest difference between conservatives and leftists, because we want to incentivize people to be independent. We want to incentivize the right kind of immigrants to come to this country. We want to incentivize people to not be homeless. Right? These are the things, right? And so to me, this is just such a big part of the story. A huge part of the story needs to be addressed. Now, I saw this. Speaking of incentives, here's a story. Jason Bateman, you know this guy. He's the Arrested Development actor, been in a number of movies. Apparently, he's got a podcast. He does it with his Arrested Development co-star Will Arnett. Some guy named Sean Hayes. I don't know who Sean Hayes is, but anyway, they do this podcast and they had on a singer. And this singer is somebody that I'm not particularly familiar with either. And the reason I'm talking about all these Hollywood types is because a controversy arose. Now, I always, folks, love when leftists get mad at other leftists. My favorite thing in the world. Because to my reasonable belief, I think Jason Bateman's a big leftist. But at any rate, they had this singer on, and her name is Charlie XCX, and she's 33 years old, and he basically, I guess, asked her, Jason Bateman asked her if she was going to have any kids. And Charlie's answer, the singer's answer was, well, actually, I don't really want to have kids. And it got all sorts of hate. Everybody's piling on Jason Bateman because then his answer to her was, well, maybe you might want to find somebody who will change your mind. Bateman goes, my wife and I, my wife didn't want to have kids until she met me, and then we ended up having kids, and it's been a happy thing. And people are I have a point with this. The leftists are piling on Jason Bateman. I guess there's some, why the F does society continue to pressure women in particular about having kids? You know what the simple answer is? I didn't used to believe this, but I believe it now more than ever, which is the reason, first off, our Western society is dying. There are places in Europe where there's no replication rate, right? Gradually, these societies are shrinking, and the only way they've made up the numbers is by importing millions and millions of people from completely different places who are taking over culturally. But again, it's not a one-size-fits-all, and I understand this. This is going to be controversial. I'm going to add to the controversy. I've come to believe that most women that I have encountered in a professional setting who are childless are actually not happy. On some level, they're not happy. They're not fulfilled. Now, is that true for every single person? Do I know exceptions to that rule? Absolutely. But I think I had kids very young. At 27 when we had our son, and I can tell you, people give a lot of reasons why not to start a family, why not to have children. And I had some of my story here. I was a college dropout. Okay, I was a college dropout when I got married. And I was self-employed. I was doing some neat things, making some money, and then I decided I wanted to go to law school. So I had to go back to undergrad to finish my undergraduate degree as a married adult already with a son. I already had my son, and I went back to school. And when I was finishing up my undergrad and working, by the way, we had our middle daughter. And when I was going to grad school to law school, my second year of law school, I'm working, I have 2 little kids at home and a wife, and we had our 3rd daughter. And my point is, right, it meant giving up some of the fun. I didn't go hang out with kids from law school. I didn't spend a lot of time being social. Went to school, left school, did my work, went to the office, did my work there, and went home. And now that I'm telling you, I can't even imagine if my wife had not, we hadn't had kids and we didn't have that fulfillment, even though it came at a great sacrifice. And I think it needs to be, the left always attacks people who are pro-life, who are pro-family, who are pro-creation. And I'm not even coming at this from a particularly religious perspective, but I think we need more kids. And I think the reason that, what are the statistics, right? It's unmarried women that are the biggest leftists on the planet. Look at the numbers, right? Married women are skew conservative. But single men, married men, skew slightly conservative. It's unmarried single women. They're the craziest people of them all. And maybe some of the insanity that we're seeing in the world would go away if people had purpose in their lives. There's no greater purpose than serving a little creature than having a kid. That's just my opinion. So Bateman's apologizing for this and whatever. I think it's just classic liberals attacking each other over ideological purity, but they got this wrong. All right, I got to take a break. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. I'll tell you what else they're attacking. They are attacking common sense fixes to immigration. And this is, you don't want to miss this. Sam Mirejovsky, I'll get to this here when we come back. These figures are astonishing, and they fly in the face of everything that you're hearing right now from the left about ICE and about immigration policies under Donald J. Trump. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Good to be with you as always. Sam@what'srightshow.com is my email. Now, these are statistics released from Tennessee, the Office of the Tennessee District Attorney's General Conference. All the DAs in the state compile all of their crime statistics, and it gets published in a report, and it just came out. Now, here's the high-level takeaway from the report. There is staggering amounts in just Tennessee of migrant crime. If you look at migrants, illegal immigrants coming into the state, there's 119 different counties all reporting into this. 2,100 violent offenses. 41 homicides. This is just in Tennessee. 1,592 assaults. 145 sexual offenses. 11 child rapes. 40 aggravated kidnappings. And get this, by the way, you want to talk about just, safety out on the roads. You're driving around. 2,900, almost 3,000 DUIs, 5,300 cases of driving without a license. Jeez. Think about how many accidents on the road are being caused by illegals. But of course, defund ICE. Defund ICE is what we want to do. We're going to defund ICE. It's crazy. 966 carjackings, 36 felony firearms offenses. It just goes on and on. 66 assaults on police officers or first responders. Well, they're probably okay with that because it's in vogue now. Now, this is why people still support Trump on immigration. It's such an absolute no-brainer. But the left out there screaming that ICE needs to be stopped, while we know that removing all illegals, literally, people, if you could just get, I keep saying this, it's not that all illegals cause crime, but it's that every crime committed by an illegal is by definition preventable, is avoidable, if that person weren't in the country to begin with. It's so obvious. So of course, yeah, you listen to them. Here is a Democrat Congresswoman, Teresa Leger Fernandez, I think is how she pronounces it, Democrat New Mexico, press conference today in D.C. They are trying to shut down the government. Obviously, I don't think this is going to work out for them, but shutting down the government so that ICE doesn't get money, gets defunded.
I want to take it to what women are facing, right? Women, especially Latinas and Asian American women and women of color, are not safe in Trump's America. We're not safe walking down the street, not driving home, not when masked men jump out of their car to smash your car window and pull you out. We are not safe when they are using our children as bait.
It's wild. Okay. This is what women. What are women facing? But by the way, this insanity continues. What is it that women are facing? Let me go back to the statistics. What about 1,592 assaults in just the state of Tennessee? What about rapes? 11 child rapes, right? 41 homicides. Some of those are women. I mean, 145 sexual assaults. What are women the left, the Democrats are happy to put you and your family in harm's way to protect their voting base. It's all about the votes. And all of this is complete nonsense. Talking about safety. Safety goes up when you remove people who shouldn't be in the country to begin with, when you remove people who are willing already by entering the country to break the law. Here's Congresswoman Jayapal with more of this insanity.
And so is abolishing ICE then just a talking point if that's not really in the demands?
No, look, I think it is about what we have the power to do. And I have said for some time, going back to 2019, I've said we should dismantle DHS because DHS was only a creation after 9/11. It never existed before that.
I love this clip. I love it. Because it was, remember, I mean, it was some illegal immigrants who overstayed their visas who may have done a few things on September 11th, which is why now we have to go through TSA checkpoints. Okay. You know what the beautiful thing is right now? This debate about the shutdown, this endless debate about the shutdown is we're going to defund ICE, all this nonsense. Because of the big, beautiful bill, ICE is funded, okay? DHS is funded through 2029. $75 billion funded through 2029. I told you this. I said, there were a lot of people out there, including smart people like Elon Musk, who were grousing, and I'm being nice about this, grousing about the big, beautiful bill and all the pork in it. And I said, look, people close to this are swearing up and down that this funds Trump's agenda. And imagine if it hadn't passed. Imagine if the Masseys and the Rand Pauls, if they had gotten their way and it hadn't passed, and now Trump, this deportation, for example, business, right? If every time it came up to a stopgap funding measure, Congress, a handful of Democrats, could hold up passing a spending bill and could actually demand changes at ICE. Right now, it's just it's a fart in a stiff wind. It's not going to go anywhere. So I'm just saying. I mean, it's a real thing. Well, the protest. I mean, I think it's protest fatigue. I said this yesterday, and I talked about it, about how the minute they started showing up in the Target stores, people are just done, right? Hey, not everybody goes to a Christian church on Sunday. They hear that story, they hear Don Lemon, and it's a very abstract thing. But the minute you start to go, you take over, you literally sit down on the ground at Target, and now the police show up, and now you can't go through the front door, and you can't get your cart, and you can't do your shopping, and you got to go to a different store. That's an inconvenience. And people, and it just, it's turning people off. It's not a persuasive tactic. And that's where it's all headed. But they still want their revolution. They still want their revolution. Make no mistake about it. I'm just saying it's a little bit harder for them to tackle it. All right, folks, top of the hour here. Sam Mirejovsky on the What's Right Media Network. Sam@what'srightshow.com is my email. And as a reminder, February 16th, we move to 6 o'clock here on KXNT. And of course, the podcast will always come out the morning before. So you get the show. If you've got the podcast, What's Right Show, if you've got the podcast, if you're subscribed, nothing changes, and you'll actually have the show before anybody else does. So think about that. Hi, welcome. Sam Mirejovsky here, friends behind the What's Right microphone. I am Nevada's favorite recovering Californian at your service. All right, email. Yes, I know. Producer Robbie glaring at me through the glass. Sam@what'srightshow.com. Sam@what'srightshow.com. That's where you find me. So, you just make sure you've got the email, and of course, @what'srightsam on X. If you're not on X, if you are on X but don't follow me, take care of that today. @what'srightsam. Now, I had a conversation. I want to get to this. I had a conversation yesterday. Somebody here in Las Vegas that I ran into socially. Now, this is a smart person in his 50s. And so, a middle-aged guy, a little older than me. And, we start talking about a topic that you hear about incessantly. And it surprised me, folks. It actually surprised me how an intelligent person has no concept of what is coming and how radically our lives are going to change within maybe as little as 2 years. I'm talking about AI. And you do not ignore this at your peril. You see the news last month at the end of the year in Q4 of 2025, Amazon laid off, I think it was 13,000 middle management positions. These are people making six figures. These are well-paid office administrators, people that have MBAs, people that have careers in business, and nobody's telling you why. Every bit of work that these people did has been replaced by artificial intelligence. Plain and simple. That's it. And I think one of the reasons that people aren't talking about it more is they're terrified of it. Now, one thing I try to do on this program is I'm an optimist, and I always like to see things. I generally do see things optimistically, and I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm just saying you have to be aware of what's happening. And one thing I strive for always is for you to be informed and to see into the future, to see around corners and identify areas of risk to you and to your family. Now, let me just say something. Let me tell you how radically the speed at which this stuff is developing is wild. I'm not just a lawyer. I'm not just a talk show host. I built a software program. I took it to market. I worked with private equity to get it deployed, and it's a software program that a number of law firms use. So some of my competitors, in fact, use my product, which I'm just putting this out there because I can tell you that just 5 years ago, if you wanted to take a product to market, if you wanted to build a functioning program, it took years. If you wanted to do anything quickly, you needed coders and programmers working at scale. Like you needed 100 people in a room. You needed a bunch of nerds working on the keyboard, pounding on the keyboard with the headphones on and listening to techno or whatever it is. You had to have those people in there, and maybe you get it built. Maybe and it would have bugs. It would have problems. The coding now, you give the AI, whichever of the learned language models it is that you're using, whichever the system, you give it the instructions of what you want coded, and it goes and codes it. And then you give it to a different program to test. And by the way, you could take, and I'll give you an example of something that I know for a fact. You could take a developed program, a site, for example, like eBay. You could even take Amazon, and you could instruct one of these AI programs to rebuild you an eBay. That's not eBay. That's a copy of it, a clone. And it could do it probably in an afternoon. It would take less than 12 hours. If you don't know this, if you're not aware of this, you're missing what's coming. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. You look at a law firm, right? My average salary here at the firm is around 100K. I'm at 90K, something like that. Well-paid people. Most law firms have many well-paid people, not just lawyers, but obviously support staff people that are very, very talented. I believe within 2 years, pretty much everything that anybody does in a law firm, except for going to court, except for interacting with the system, with other people like judges and insurance adjusters to some extent, opposing counsel, everything else is going to be done by machine. It's all going to be done on, you won't even know within a year when you're calling someplace and you think you're talking to a human. Now you can still kind of tell you're kind of a little wonky, a little stale. It's not, just you get the feeling, that the person you're talking to is an AI chatbot. But in the future, I'm convinced this and not too far out. The machine is doing the talking on the phone. You may end up going to a bank and want to speak to and the most competent screen is going to be answering your questions. And it's just, so, I don't, the number I don't know. There's different numbers of how many people are going to be displaced by this. But it is the single most disruptive event that we have faced as people since entering the industrialized age. Well, I think I think certain jobs are probably more safe than others for now, right? If you're in entertainment, if you're in foods, people got to eat, right? Food is food, right? You gotta whether you're a store that provides food, a farm that provides food, a restaurant that serves food. There's things like, that won't necessarily disappear, but I mean, a lot of well-paid jobs are simply going to go away. You know what Elon Musk says about this? He says there's going to basically be universal income. Everybody's going to have income. And I don't know quite how that plays out, folks. I can't put my finger on it. If everybody, think about COVID. COVID's the last time that we had people not working but getting paid not to work. Yeah, there are some people where, of course, you have the people that had the essential jobs, right? And that's, well, no, I mean, it's just, I'm telling you, there's people that had essential jobs and they had to continue working, and a lot of people didn't and work from home, right? They're pretending to work. And a lot of people just, were laid off and didn't work, and the government paid them not to work. Well, we had runaway inflation, right? Because if you understand how money works and the economy, you give every person a check. You give every person the same check, or roughly the same check. It no longer has the same value. No, it's absolutely, now, obviously AI is going to speed up things like, discovery of drugs and disease, diagnosing, finding a cure for cancer, I believe is definitively on the horizon in the near term, because the analytical computing capability of these systems are immense. But when I tell you it's advancing rapidly, back to my example of the program being able to write from scratch a website like eBay, in 12 hours. Think of what the system is doing for itself, right? So the AI programs, these learned language models that are interfacing between you, the user, if you're using it, and the machine, the machine, the back end and the front end is constantly self-improving. It's not dependent on people and man hours and scaling of a human workforce and dealing with vacations and dealing with people being off and dealing with people not being productive and dealing with some people, replicating each other's work. None of that. I mean, this is all just taking off at such a fast clip, and it ties into the political sphere, because whose ever lap this lands on, whichever political party is in power at the time that this AI thing starts to really take people's jobs, they're going to be handed. If you thought COVID was a political, hot potato, and it, caused political, ripples through our system, this is going to dwarf it. Absolutely dwarf it. And that's what I guess that's what I'm getting at. I'm throwing a lot of this out there. I don't know necessarily. I'm smart enough to understand that it's coming, that it's real. And I'm warning you about it, that you have to think about anything that is, computer work, anything that is thinking work, all of that's going away. It's gone. It's basically, at this point, dead in the water. And anything that's human facing, that requires a soft touch, that requires, things that are particular to a human being, and entertainment especially. You've got a lot of people sitting around collecting checks for doing nothing from the government, who have to pay these people. Otherwise, there's going to be riots in the street. They'll need entertaining. So if you're in the entertainment business, I think you're in luck. By the way, good news, I suppose, on some levels for Las Vegas. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Quick break. Be right back.
The Sam and Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. So, let me tell you one thing about this AI thing real fast. There's an optimism case here too, for example, for inflation, right? Because when COVID was going on, and I mentioned that, if you're just joining us, right? I mean, there's going to be a lot of change over the next 2 years, and people are talking. Musk is suggesting that a lot of people who are out of work, who've been replaced by a computer system, are going to get some form of universal basic income. I mean, either the government or there's a means by which people are paid not to work. And I mentioned how that reminds me of COVID and that it's a little crazy. But remember, some big difference with COVID was there wasn't enough production. And under AI, actually production will go up, efficiency will go up. So when COVID was going on, the government was handing out free money to people. People were sitting at home, they were consuming money, they had extra money, but at the same time, the marketplace wasn't producing enough goods. The marketplace, the factories were shut down everywhere, from China to the U.S. to India, everywhere. So everything was shut down. Not enough goods were being produced. At the same time, demand went up. Supply down, demand up, prices are going to go through the roof. That is a source of inflation, right? And we're still dealing with that pain here now. So the question, of course, happens, if you've got people sitting at home unemployed and taking money, let's setting aside how they're going to get that money for a minute. One thing that will happen is the efficiency and the cost to bring goods to market will go down. For most companies and most businesses, payroll is a large, maybe the largest cost. Now, if a company like Amazon can suddenly lay off 13,000 people who are all making six figures, at some point that savings can, if people become more price sensitive, if the consumer has less money to spend, that business has the ability to deliver the same service better, faster, for less money. So there's an optimism case here too. I wanted to make sure I touched on that. Now, let me tell you a word here. I'm going to mention just real fast Sam and Ash. I talk about what I do here in my day job at the law firm. I love what I do. Sam and Ash Injury Law should be your first call after you've been injured, had an accident, anything like this happen. Hugely important. Because I talk to every day, every week, somebody tells me the story, and it's the same thing every single time. I trusted the insurance company. I talked to my agent, my adjuster, everybody. They just said, send me the forms, fill this out for me, respond to this email. You chase it, days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months. And at the end of it, you're still $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 upside down for everything. It wasn't even your fault. You're not responsible for this. It's not, it's not right. So don't be that person, but please, it's not a do-it-yourself project. Hire a lawyer, get help. Sam and Ash Injury Law. The only law firm to trust for your injury case. No recovery, no fee, doesn't cost you any money up front. Okay? It's upside. And that upside is important for you because you can't get stuck owing money at the end of something like this. All right? 800-304-2000. 800-304-2000. samandashlaw.com, because you deserve what's right. All right. Now, there's one more thing I want to go back to here, and that's this downturn, this lamented downturn of employment in Hollywood. Well, I mentioned it at the top of last hour in our top 5 news stories. Christopher Nolan, who is obviously a famous actor, but he's also the president of the Directors Guild of America. He's a dialed-in, juiced-in Hollywood insider, and he's saying that the leadership role that he got put in here at the Guild is daunting because there's been a huge downturn in employment. And this is what they cite. They cited literally generative AI, and they're calling it the hype around it, but it's not hype. I mentioned this maybe before, but I'm on a board of a university, of Chapman University in Orange, California, and we have a major big film school. Okay, it's one of the top film schools in the country. And I listened to a presentation in a board meeting from one of the deans there that was explaining how entire short films are now being made using generative AI by students. I mean, it's wild. And stuff that used to, special effects used to require a ton of man hours, lots of specialized people, was very expensive, so many jobs around. It's all gone. So you set aside, right? You set aside just the politics of Hollywood, which of course is off-putting and made a lot of their products not particularly palatable to the public. But this is a crazy, when you take a place like special effects where you used to have hundreds of people working on one movie, and you can do the same thing with one guy or two people, working the right series of programs. I mean, and get it done in a fraction of the time. We're not even getting to the fact that actors are going to get replaced. They're going to make virtual actors, and I read somewhere about a famous influencer that has a huge following, like 1 million people, and he just signed a contract. He signed a $900 million contract to turn over his likeness, his voice, and his face and everything over to AI and license to AI so they can use his image in perpetuity and make even more videos and make even more content. They think they're going to make billions of dollars off of revenue from doing this deal. It's really some crazy stuff that's happening out there. All right, Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. I'll be right back. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email. Now, let me tell you something. Trump is, if nothing else, an absolute master at taking popular issues, 80-20 issues, and making the Democrats take the side of the minority, taking the side of 20% of people out there, relegating them to essentially third-party status. No better example of this than voter ID. The SAVE Act that was introduced by Republicans in the House, Chip Roy of Texas, now in the Senate, it's languished there for months because even Senate Republicans have their heads up their monies on this. Trump knows, and the House Republicans know, this is a massively popular issue. And it's even been championed by the likes of Nicki Minaj. You see Nicki Minaj this week. What sensible? This is Nicki Minaj on X. By the way, if you're not on X, get on X. It's where all the action is. Quote, what sensible, forward-thinking, cutting-edge leading nation is having a debate on whether or not there should be voter ID, like question mark, exclamation point, question mark, and on and on. It continues. Again, this is Nicki Minaj. They're actually fighting not to have people present ID while voting for your leaders. Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it now? Well, CNN did a segment on it this morning. And maybe this will catch the attention of some of the senators, maybe John Thune in the Senate, the leader, Senate Majority Leader. Get a listen of this.
And the American people are with Nicki Minaj, because what are we talking about here? So take a look here. Favor voter ID to vote. Look, I got all this polling on the screen going back since 2018. You'll notice on all of it, it's all north of 75%, 76%, 76%, 76%, 81%, and then 83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote.
There you go. 80, north of 80%. And the Democrats, assisted by the loser Senate Republicans, are not moving on this. These people, you think, what, did they get lobotomized? Did Republicans in the Senate get a lobotomy? Like, what's Susan Collins doing? I know she's from Maine, or where F she's from. I get it. I get it. She's got a lot of Democrats in her state. Lisa Murkowski in Alaska. I got it. You're telling me that, what are the numbers? What do you think the numbers are, by the way, in Alaska? It's got to be like 90% favorable. So what actually gives? You almost think that these rhino Republicans want Democrats to win. They like being in the minority, showing up, cush job, all the perks, none of the responsibility. It's pathetic. Harry Enn breaks it down, pretty shocking. Across all groups, numbers are pretty favorable. Here's Harry Enn breaking it down.
Take a look here. Favor photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
Every Republican that isn't getting this across the finish line is a complete and total loser. And by the way, you notice that, what is it, 76% of blacks support this? Speaking of the Senate Minority Leader, Democrat Chuck Schumer, who, if we keep this up, Republicans, is going to end up as Majority Leader. Chuck Schumer on X wrote that the SAVE Act is nothing more than Jim Crow 2.0. He wrote, it would disenfranchise millions of Americans. The people that are, it seems pretty obvious, the people that are fighting not to have voter ID are probably the ones cheating in elections, right? Because what's the argument against? I always enjoy these conversations, Robbie, and I have them frequently. There are people who cannot get ID. It amounts to a poll tax, which of course is illegal, and a poll tax means you pay money to vote. By the way, I would love a poll tax, some minimum threshold of some sort of skin in the game, right? So I think only people who pay taxes should vote. That's my opinion. All right. But okay, I'm getting off base. What do you think? What do you think the argument? Because the argument is, to buy it, you have to get an ID. The ID, state ID, costs money. And to get an ID, you have to go and get your birth certificate and proof of whatever, and you got to go to this office and that office and figure it all out. And all said, it takes time, it takes skill, and it takes money. That's the argument. Make IDs free. Most states have a free option, actually. A lot of states do a free option for ID. Make a government-issued ID, not a driver's license, but a government ID, make it free, okay? You get one free copy of your birth certificate. This is not a real argument. There's a way you can get around this. And the cost of that is de minimis if to ensure, accountability in our elections and one person, one vote. What's the other? It takes a skill level. Guys, you need ID for everything. Just do something for me. If you're on the other side of this debate, if you think there's a colorable reason why you shouldn't demand ID, let me ask you this. Take your ID away. I'm not talking about driving, just for life. Take your ID away and see how far you get in life over the next week. I don't know how you can exist. Like, you can't exist. And by the way, the funnier part about this is that the states out there that are pushing, they're the people screaming the loudest about this are Democrats in states where they have given driver's licenses to illegals. So apparently it's not a problem for immigrants, arguably some of the poorest people out there immigrating to the country, refugees immigrating to the country, people who don't speak the language, don't know how to navigate the system. Somehow, the most quote unquote vulnerable people out there find a way to ID, in Democrat-run states. So the whole argument is nonsensical. It is absolute bunk. it plain and simple, they want illegals to vote in elections. They want to do that. And it comes down, the midterms, again, so consequential, and 2028 is going to be a make it or break it year, because if we don't preserve the common sense government, if we get Gavin Newsom, the king of illegals voting, Gavin Newsom, what he did in California, the state got taken over by the Democrats' feral pets, aka the drug addicted, clinically insane homeless people and illegals. That is the thrust of Democratic power in a state that has enough wealth to make Solomon blush. Gavin Newsom jets around the world describing how California is the 14th or the 7th or the 8th largest economy, won't shut up about this. Meanwhile, the state is completely and utterly controlled via the homeless, via the illegals, by the Democrats. And they're going to die on this hill. Folks prepared to fight. So the answer here is, got to do away with the filibuster. Republicans, wake up. And what they could do very simply is they could vote in the Senate. Majority, all it would take is 51 votes in the Senate. So we could even lose 2 Republicans. 51 votes to amend Senate rules for this one bill doing away with the filibuster. They could do that. Mechanically speaking, you understand what the filibuster problem is. The filibuster problem is, under current Senate rules, with the exception of judgeships, it requires a 60-vote threshold to end debate. We ran into this problem with the budget. So we went into a shutdown that was much longer because Republicans needed 7 Democrats to go along with them to get the 60 votes. And what it is, it's a procedural thing. You have 60, and it's not a constitutional requirement. This is a internal Senate rule, and the Senate can adjust those rules. And you're not telling me that the Democrats, if the would do away with this in a heartbeat? Get this done. By the way, the Senate will be 60-40 Republican if we did away with cheating in elections. Yeah, I know California, there's a lot of Republicans there. There's a lot more opportunity there to actually start winning elections if they clean them up. And certainly all across the country. No, they want to keep their cheating. So this is my recommendation to Thune, if he's listening to the program. Let me tell you, Senator, very simple. Go in, amend the rules for this bill specific. If you don't want to do away, you don't blow up the filibuster, just for this one thing, amend the Senate rules to allow for this exception and vote on it and get it passed. Or we're done with you. That's how strongly I feel about this. By the way, this whole debate about, there's more stuff. This just keeps heating up here as we are on air. The Dems are going to get someone killed. They already have. Renee Good, Alex Preddy. That's absolutely frightening stuff. Okay, I got to get into this here after the break. Sam Mirejovsky on the What's Right Media Network. Be right back in a moment. I think body cameras for ICE is a great idea. Trump talked about that this morning. Sam Mirejovsky on the What's Right Media Network. Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email. Of course, the podcast, please be sure to find it wherever you get your podcast. What's Right Show is what you search. Those 3 words, What's Right Show, and look for my beautiful face. Okay, this was an announcement that Kristi Noem made, that she and Tom Homan had decided that they're deploying cameras, body cams on everybody. Trump announcing this, and I'll tell you my reaction to this, just as an attorney, is I think this is a great idea. I think it's really important that ICE have a record, that each of these agents and officers have a record of what's going on in each and every one of these incidents before their cameras start rolling. You know, I don't know if you've ever done this kind of fun exercise. You can online, you'll play a video, and they'll ask you to form an opinion of it, and you'll immediately think that one person is the aggressor and the other person's the victim. For example, they'll show you a video of a guy punching somebody, and the guy, the other person falling to the ground, knocked out cold, and they ask you, what do you think? What do you think happened here? I go, oh, that's a bad guy right there knocking out this guy. And then if you see a longer video, you see the minute or two before the knockout punch, the context is you realize it's actually a defensive action. You realize that the other person was the one picking a fight. The other person had just kicked a kid in the face, a 4-year-old child, right? Giving you an example, all of which would certainly justify, warrant him being stopped by an adult intervener, right? And these are the kind of things that happen, right? Context is very important. And the anti-ICE people, these are professional agitators. And the reason they're having everybody out there film with their cameras, with their cell phones, is they're hoping to catch a video that then they will selectively edit to make ICE guys look bad. Now, the Renee Good shooting, remember this, it was the agent, I believe he was carrying his phone, he was holding his phone and videotaping with his phone because he didn't have a body cam. He wanted to get the thing on tape, and it was his point of view camera that captured the verbal commands given to Renee Good, her refusal to follow, drive baby drive, the wife, the crazy lesbian wife yelling at her to accelerate, her accelerating, hitting, thump, you can hear a car striking the officer, and then subsequent gunfire. And that video, which I believe was recorded by one of the agents, became the basis of, at least me and other reasonable people looking at that going, yeah, justified shooting, clean shooting. Now, the Preddy matter, if the officers had body cam and you could see actually the point of view of the officer and see the threat, I mean, how many times, this is a fact. It was in the wake of George Floyd, it was the liberals out there, the anti-cop people that demanded that police put on body cameras 24/7, basically walk into the bathroom with their body cameras on. And when the police began doing this, we suddenly realized that actually cops aren't just white supremacist, racist killers roaming around, murdering people of color willy-nilly. But actually what we realize is there's a lot of people of color, and others, of course, as well, that are doing dangerous things, that are attacking cops, that are not getting out of the car, even when there's not a weapon involved. These body cameras, these videos, how many videos have you seen of some nincompoop not getting out of his or her car, refusing commands? Saintly patience from the officer, saintly patience. Yes, I'll get a supervisor. Supervisor, ma'am, you got to get out of the car. I ain't getting out of the car. Ma'am, I need you to get out of the car. You just need it's very simple. It's a lawful order. I got to get you out of the car. I'm not going to, okay. And then they break the window and drag you around. It looks like the greased pig, contest at the county fair. And so I'm loving this. And this, by the way, if this is some kind of concession to the leftists out there, then I'm sorry to tell you this, but the left this isn't the win the left thinks it is. That's my point. It's not the win the left thinks it is. Listen to how they're talking. This is Jerry Nadler, member of Congress. Nadler's retiring. Thank goodness. This guy, I've met Jerry Nadler. He's one of the most unattractive members of Congress. And that is, that's quite an accomplishment. Listen to what he says about ICE. And does it almost sound like he's telling people to kill ICE agents?
But what is really the major problem in this country today is the fascism in our streets. The attacks on American citizens by masked hoodlums. If you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped. You'd be justified in shooting the person.
Wow. Wow. These people are jumping, yes, out of unmarked cars. They're getting the drop on criminal illegal aliens. These are people that are getting released out of jails by sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. They're marked. They've got vests and badges that say police on them, right? Jerry Nadler, it's powerful when a member of Congress says out loud, hey, you got to get the drop on, you might be inclined to kill somebody. Wow, I mean, at least the left finally understands why the Second Amendment is so important. It's wild. By the way, there's a Minnesota poll, Survey USA, question number 15. Should state local authorities help with immigration enforcement? Yes, 50%. No, 36%. Isn't that wild? Now, Republicans were plus 80 on this. Democrats, minus 34. Independents, plus 3. Urban people, plus 16. Suburban, plus 9. Rural, obviously skewed higher. 18 to 34 were underwater. So it's young people. Male, plus 23. Female, plus 5. So less on the females. It's just an interesting breakdown. Even in deep blue Minnesota. A majority up, straight up 50% to 36% believe that the state and local cops should help ICE enforcement. You believe that? They should help with immigration, protect ICE, and turn over illegals. And yet, again, maybe not quite an 80-20 issue, but it's still a significant issue. If it's like that in Minnesota, can you imagine what it's like in Nevada? All right, folks, I got to run. Action-packed show today. Hope you had an enjoyable couple hours with me. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Find the What's Right show when we do the time change and get the show every morning, first thing, fresh content. Just letting you know. I'll be back tomorrow.